All right, you want to? Okay, get started.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Bye.
Okay.
So, Andre and I, on behalf of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission, call meeting the order on Tuesday, November 7th, have a quorum. Let's do just a welcome and an account so we know. I'm Joe Colombo. I'm here.
Kristen Harry. I'm Nancy Brown.
Rob Monroe here.
Quorum. We'll start with any good news. So let's do minutes last time. So we've been sent ahead of time the minutes from the 10/17 meeting. Nancy gave us a couple of edits, which we've incorporated into the minutes, so they're minor. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes or questions, or would someone like to move to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I guess we have to do it. Let's go because we're virtual. All in favor of approving the minutes? Joe Colombo, aye.
Kristen Harry, aye. Nancy Brown, aye.
Rob Monroe, aye.
Okay, thank you.
Say something else.
Something else.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to change the speakers so that we could hear you better, but it doesn't look like it's.
Should I use my teacher voice? I can use my
minutes today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, okay.
It's the last two times we were doing it. I don't know how good they were, so thank you for taking back. So we start first with any news or anything that's happened since our last meeting that you've seen in the town or heard about or participated in or gone to. Maybe you want to share an invitation to the first equity inclusion.
And this is the talk about a little bit, I haven't got to share it.
Speakers.
So,
here.
I'm calling this like another inclusivity or so, but more like challenging stereotypes. So I have a fourth grader at Alcott, and he had left his Pokemon card binder at school, and we rode our bikes home, and then by the time we remembered and came back, it had been like, half an hour, 40 minutes later, somebody had kind of rifled through it, and it was like a little bit of a mess there at the playground at Alcott. And I was like, oh, this is it, and keep things so upset. And he has experienced a lot of loss, so he experiences things pretty hard. And then, well, as we were kind of going up there, we saw these high schoolers there. Sometimes they come over and practice, tracking or whatever they can play. He's like, oh no, there's high schoolers here. They're always like causing trouble, which they really aren't. But his perception was, oh no, there's high schoolers here. So anyway, we get there, the high schoolers kind of, doing workout on the playground and stuff. And one of them looks down and sees Jaden trying to collect the cards. And you could see this high schooler just feel for my son. And he said, did something happen to your card? And Jaden couldn't talk. So anyway, he said, oh yeah, we were only gone for a little while. Somebody, must have gotten them and stuff like that. And this high schooler said, he could empathize. He knew how this felt. He said, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm done with mine. Would you like mine? And Jaden, who never says anything, was like, yes, that'd be yes. And so not only did this high schooler do that, he got my phone number and my address, went back to his house. He had to finish practice, went back to his house, made a special trip. Literally on the same day, he just kind of broke it. About Facebook, which I'm not really sure why he said that anyway. But it's just the kind of thing that you see somebody, you think something about them, and then they change the way that you see them from them on. And I hope, and I said to Jaden, I was like, so if you found a Pokemon binder, what would you do? And he's like, well, I'd take it because that's what happened to me. I was like, okay, we're still at it. But so it was the kind of thing that was just really nice to see, and he did not have to do that, and he certainly did not have to do it the same day, and it's really nice.
Other good news from the mouth. certainly a story about opening your mind and including and not assuming, right?
Yes.
Hey, someone like what's on, think what's on the outside is the inside, right? So for our report, do you want to talk about last night? Let's at least start. And what did you think? How did last night go? What was your feeling? And
I thought last night went really well. Eventually. We presented our focus, activities and our plan to the select board. And I think they received it very well. I even thought they might have been excited about some of the activities. And so thank you, Joe. I think we did really well presenting our, you were, Kristen was online. What did you think, Kristen?
I mean, I thought it was nice because you kind of explained why we focused in for the year and are like concisely explain kind of what the goals were. So I thought from that perspective, it was really good.
Yeah, me too.
I think like a nice concrete example, like the work you're going to do with the chamber. That's a thing people can really understand, and everyone we've talked about it, they always go, I was telling their eyes wide. No, that's a good idea. So it's like one of those, it's concrete.
Yes.
You explained it well too, and your background. So that's important.
Yeah.
Mark, from your perspective, what do you see? How do you think our report was perceived?
I think the report was well presented. I thought that it was great to see, to have the opportunity to sort of see it right up next to the effort that's going on around the grant from the state that the Economic Vitality Committee is working on, and to see those parallels. I felt like that really hit home with some of the other select board members. If I have any concern at all, it's that I think that the discussion about the signs will be what's remembered about it, when in fact the sort of really nicely structured framework that you have is, should be more front and center. So you have to be a little careful about highlighting that. But I thought the materials that were prepared were very good from that perspective, and so look forward to working with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that that little one pager we'll put up on our webpage. But if you and your select board liaison reports, if you could, every time you present about what's going on in the DEI, if you just link it back to our focus and those 5 things, that will help, I think. Because really what we're doing is educating people. Like, these are the 2 things we're working on, and here are 5 ways we're working on those 2 things. Yeah. We need to hear that over and over again, I think.
I was not expecting the sign discussion, but I think it went really well, and it speaks very well of the select board. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have somewhat mixed feelings about that, just because I feel really strongly that it is time for action for the signs, which is why I made the motion. But I'm also apologizing a little bit because, like I said, I think it had the potential to upstage the work that you're doing. Otherwise,
we think they're the same thing.
Yeah,
we don't see it as any different.
I get that.
It's actually like taking the work we're doing and turning it into concrete action.
It's okay. I mean, that was actually a bit a very, very unexpected result of our intervention, and I thank you for your courage. And also, I think you were very direct and frank and firm. Thank you.
And Rob, I don't know, or actually Nancy, I don't know if you know, but last night the sign issue that we've been working on was taken off the agenda. But when we did our presentation, because it's one of our 5 areas we're working on, we brought it up. I brought it up. Andrea, I checked with her ahead of time, and it turned into a motion to have the signs covered that Mark brought to the table. And through good dialogue and help from Andrea, myself, the select board members, someone from the Historic Commission, really helping people discuss and make meeting and deliberate in a way that said, let's
have those signs covered temporarily while we figure out more long-term action. And that was Mark who made the motion, and he got his colleagues, at least 2 of them, to agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting discussion to watch when they post it online, for sure. And I think that the point would be, you know, what kind of education besides the memo can we do, because it's, you know, people don't know why that's why we need to take that. And then the conversation maybe goes, well, do we do, if somebody's offended about everything, do we, you know, do that? So figuring out how to kind of like, you know, use this as this opportunity for us all to learn, because that's what I think is going to happen next is people extrapolate from that. Well, we take this down and that's down, where do we stop? And
maybe talk about it, right?
Well,
that's what I would say. We talk because people say that to us all the time about this work, and it's, well, if someone's offended, then we discuss it, whether it's a community or a school or a family. I think part of what we're trying to do is, I mean, I always go back to the family analogy. In a family, when there's stuff going on, if you don't talk about it, the family doesn't get any better. Then we just, and I think in the Concord, we have stuff going on, whether it's stuff going on at our schools or in the community, in our shops or in our signs. And that's what the DEI Commission is supposed to do, is help people talk about it. But it's not going to be pleasant always. And usually, I don't know, I always heard when you get to the area where people start to get heated, that usually means you're getting to the right stuff. I don't know, Nancy, what do you think of your experience in this?
You can't accomplish things just making everybody happy.
Yeah, and I also believe that conflict is not a bad thing. You know, conflict could be just discussing things that we want to change or not. And it's okay to be comfortable with conflict and with this awkwardness, no? And this, some moments are very uncomfortable, but it's okay because I think they take us to places where we can actually explain, no, more things or ask for more information. And then, I mean, in some, I guess, sometimes even like apologize or not, and this has nothing to do with yesterday. This has to do with just regular conflict. Not when you're uncomfortable, that's what makes you grow. That's what makes you actually like reflect on what happened and then move towards a better place. So yeah, no, does that answer your question? I think it was a good day, good night.
Were there any voices in opposition or questioning?
Just the chair and the select board.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of his, part of his reasoning was because it wasn't supposed to be on the agenda. So he was kind of a little bit, nervous about heading into that. And he wasn't, he didn't feel like
it had been on the agenda, it had been posted, and then it was withdrawn by the select board chair.
Right.
Without the authorization of his colleagues.
Right, so I think there was a little bit of a procedural, concern on his part, just to make sure. And then he wanted to make sure, what I heard was he wanted to make sure that he had enough information to evaluate things properly. And so part of the discussion was, well, things have been produced and, making sure that they're being reviewed expediently and things like that. So in other words, I think that what will happen next is there will be another meeting at some point that is more publicized, where it's going to be discussed what does happen next, right? So right now they said they're going to cover them, and even that's going to be in the paper and what's going on. And then I think we'll hear other voices that start to say,
I almost think covering them will generate more.
Exactly.
Right. That's why that was the brilliance, I think, of Mark's suggestion, because it forces people to think and talk.
Right. That was one of the goals, was to make sure that there's awareness that the conversation is going on and is started. The other portion of, besides asking that the town manager cover the signs immediately or as soon as possible is what the actual language was. I also had requested that we formally ask you as the DEI Commission and the Historical Commission to collaborate on what the disposition of the signs will be over time. Whether they should be removed, whether they should be modified. I noticed that there are some communities, I think Essex is one, where they've added signage to the sign to try to explain that. I have my own personal views about that, which I'd be happy to share another time. Or whether they should be relocated. You know, it's very much some of the conversation that's come up around historic monuments and things like that in other places, in other communities. And I think that's a relatively long conversation. And so my thinking was that there's an opportunity to stop the immediate harm of people taking pictures next to these inaccurate and offensive signs on a daily basis, while we then go on and try to figure out what do we really want to say about some of these places. You know, the mill. I focused when I looked at this on the titles of these signs. One of them is called the Mill Dam. So the question that comes up for me is, what is the historical origin of the Mill Dam and its history, and what do we want to really say about that?
What do we even know?
That location. What do we know about? Jethro Tree, obviously somebody named a Jethro Tree at some point, and what does that mean? Where did that come from? And the other sign is titled The First Settlement, 1635, which is really an acknowledgement of the founding of the European immigrant colony of Concord, not the first settlement.
Right.
So, and if there's the Tercentennial Commission commissioned this, I think it's Nancy, what's her name, mentioned 275 of these signs that were all put up in a single year, 1930, and they reflected very much the understanding, sensibilities, and frankly the goal of, you know, sort of promoting, you know, these various locations. They were they had a specific purpose, and it's worth it, I think, to understand what that was and what was going on when Mass Bay Colony was celebrated 300 years. That's just one point in time on this longer arc of history.
And that was that point that you made last night about it. We try to say it better than I do, about how it's necessary for people, or
Yeah, maybe that's something we needed back then.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to, you know, reaffirm our identity, which was something else back then. Maybe, you know, 100 years later, we need something else.
Well, and you know, if you think back about it, that was when the automobile as a way of getting around and sightseeing, as it were, was coming up. And so this was the equivalent of, you know, putting up a web page or a QR code, or, you know, a roadside banner that says, here, you know, there might be a reason to stop here. It was
take a picture,
advertising, and you know, sort of some economic purpose as well. And
it shows how slow the cars went in those days, because they were not, print was supposed to be big enough that you could read it.
Yeah,
from your automobile. So think
30 miles an hour was really moving along.
Yeah.
So all interesting things about them. But I think that, you know, so it's time for us to recontextualize all of that. And
I know that when the town deputy town manager first brought this to us, her long-term plan was not only to work on what these signs coming down, what should go up, and then where do we not have signage? Because we know there's not a sign anywhere in the town other than the Robbins House and one stone for Brister of African-American history anywhere in this town. There's not a marker, there's not a picture, there's not a signage, there's nothing. So if you don't know, you could walk into this town, visit, spend the day here, and leave, and never even knew any African-American history. That's it. So that's hopefully the long term out of this is a lot of work, and that's what we're trying to push, because that's our job. Rob, you haven't said any, do you have any comments you want to make on this topic before we move on? Making space, no pressure. No, okay.
I just want to say thank you guys for doing that last night. It sounds like it was very generative, not without conflict, but that's expected. And there's a lot of good work to do moving forward. So thank you.
Well, anytime. So if it's okay with, we'll move on to just checking in on the action plan. And remember, when we go through these items, we just say each one out loud. And if there's nothing to update, just say, oh, nothing new since last time, and we move on to the next one. There's no pressure to like don't feel nervous. So engage with the chamber on the first box. Anything new on that you want to share?
There has been some engagement. So Joe put me in touch with the director of the chamber, and I have sent her an email with a PowerPoint presentation of what the project looks like and a description of what we want to do, so that she can share it with the different members of the chamber and can and make it easier for her to communicate what we're trying to do. We just actually got an email from her right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She just wants to know who we are. And
who are these people?
Sure.
And they're like town approved, yeah.
And we're employed by the town or not. I said, we're the co-chairs of the commission, and it's a volunteer position. I don't know if we need to get it working too.
We're working collaborative with the town manager who's supportive of this work, something like that.
I mean, I think that, and I'm sorry, I heard just last week, I heard about this economic vitality project. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna email you, and then of course I go back to my computer. And I'm not, anyway. I think we should be doing this as closely together as possible.
And that's Mimi, who we've already connected, who was here last night.
Yes,
She was there last night.
Yes.
Right, because I think that because obviously she is, it's not town approved, obviously, but endorsed by the town, she's coming from the town, so they're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll definitely do that. And if we come in either second, even first, but not associated with that, I think they'd be like, well, we just did this, we don't have time to do something else. So I think if we can put it together as a package, which will mean working with Mimi, and say, look, if you're going in there to talk, like, I don't know, formulate some plan that says, okay, let's make the town more welcoming. You're looking at it from this perspective. We're going to look at it from this perspective. Here are the goals that we want to have at the end together. And then one of the goals would be, to have a certain approval. And then maybe she has another little sticker in there that says, I don't know how you say it for aging friendly. I mean, but it's not what it is. There's a more welcoming way to say that.
Yeah, and she's not working on training, she's working on actual.
She's like evaluating. That's what
That would be cool.
It is.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Hers is more.
Who is this is doing what?
Okay, yeah, so sorry, let's back.
So last night, Mimi Graney, she's the economic vitality director for the town. She started here this summer, and she spoke at town meeting, select board last night, because she won a grant from the state of Massachusetts for $40,000. Specifically, I think I have this right, for helping businesses think about how they're becoming more age friendly. So sort of piggybacking on the work the Disability Commission has already done to really evaluate the shops in town of how friendly they are, and giving some training. This grant would be used to hire people to do training to, like, okay, how to look at your store to make sure, like, maybe you could add a doorbell so people could ring a bell and you could come to the door. Are your ADA accessible things have boxes in front of them? Do you have an iPad that you go to the door with so people can't come in and say, here's some of the candy you can buy here? Because we know Concord is not, especially this part of town, is not very accessible. And all of these old shops and stairwells that are quite exciting to the Historic District Commission, but quite scary to people who are disabled. We've got that conflict we've got to resolve. So I think that was my understanding of what she's trying to do.
Yeah, so the select board formally accepted it's called a Massachusetts Community Compact Grant. So it's funding from the state under a partnership program that they run with municipalities. And so this is for business-oriented age-friendly programs, which also gets into ADA accessibility. So it seemed like by offering those services to retail establishments in particular, there's a real direct parallel with what Andrea was talking about.
Well, I mean, I can definitely see, like, I don't know if we talked about like a badge or something in the window and for welcoming, but it would definitely be good if somebody's walking by to say, I can get, like, from that age perspective, that it's more accessible. I can go in the store, or I'm not going to go in that store because I'm not going to be able to get out well, or, so, you have kind of, without doing too many different signs in the window.
So I think our job is to continue with building relationships with Pat and the chamber and keeping Mamie keeping her in the loop because she's wants to help us. That's what I'm hearing, but what do you think?
I think it would be great if the badge can encompass different activities and efforts. I'm just wondering about the coordination and planning.
Well, and I don't know over what period of time her timing is. If the grant was just awarded, she's probably planning it, and I hiring somebody. Yeah.
So you're
all right. Well, let's find out at least.
Ours could be ahead and be the sort of like
Maybe the first, like maybe level, and then if you also have accessibility, then you can get like the purple one or like the next level one. Or something like that. I mean, that I think can be designed later, and then to include different efforts, like more of them.
Because the chamber has said to us that winter's a really good time for them to do this kind of online training because jobs are slower. It's easier to get their staff to take time to do some of this, so it's a really good time. And then if we could have these, these things are appearing in the windows. That might lines up nicely. And in June, we have going to Rob now. We talk about Pride. That'd be kind of a neat thing to be able to walk the center of town. Anything else you want to say on the chamber?
No.
Okay. But I do owe you. You shared kind of your draft of the training, right?
I did.
I owe you some feedback.
Okay, I have a newer version
okay.
Because I did receive feedback from Nancy, which was spectacular, by the way. Thank you very much. It really changed the whole game. It was very good feedback, and so we have a new version. I can share that with the members of the commission. So you can work with that.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Rob, are you still there? Because I know you've got school you're trying to run. We'll come back. Oh, do you want
I'm still here.
You want to talk about Concord Pride just in case so we don't lose you?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Very
well. So really quickly, the next meeting of Concord Pride is next Thursday, the 16th at 11 a.m. And it's really a working meeting for us to brainstorm and put together what we're going to produce in terms of documenting Concord's LGBTQIA+ history. And so it'll be from 11 to 12-ish. And we're in the Concord Free Public Library trustee room. It should be great. We're really excited to do that. And then I think that work will help inform some of the strategic thinking around how we want to support the town's Pride Month 24 festivities in June. That's what we got.
Who's invited to that meeting, Rob? Who are you expecting?
So we have a very small committee of folks who are staff at local nonprofits who do this work. But it's an open meeting, and so members of the public are open. I would encourage any and all of us to go. We don't want to leave any voices out, and I think as we keep doing this work, we're going to hope to include students in this as well. But it is an open meeting, subject to open meeting laws, all of that good stuff. So if you can get there, it would be great. And I'm happy to forward you the agenda later today.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it was posted online.
Oh, is it?
I think it just came
just
out.
this morning.
Yeah.
I did it on time this time.
You did it. Woo-hoo. And it's we're just a subcommittee of 2, but everyone else are just helpers. So that's why we made it that way, so people can come and go. We don't have to go through. But if you came, we'd be a subcommittee of 3, and if you came, we're 4. So it's great. Very good. Any questions on this one? We did describe it last night at the select board. So I think that's good to have that out in front of people. And tomorrow at the historic coffee, it's this morning meeting once a month where people are interested in history get together online. I'm going to talk a little bit just about lavender history or LGBTQ+IA history, just to say that we're working on it, so that when it starts to come, they aren't surprised, and maybe some of them will come to our meeting too. Might be interested. How about just in terms, let's combine public safety and the reporting. Anything new we want to talk about then? Do you know when your next public safety meeting with the police chief is, or anything you want? And you can say nothing to the report.
I don't have a date, but I guess the question I would ask, is there anything that we want to bring to him? Because basically it was just kind of touch base about if there's anything we wanted to make him aware of.
Well, touching base is good. I think simply just touching base, that's good. There'll always be something that comes to talk about. He didn't, someone mentioned to you like about maybe sometime doing some training. So that might be a place to.
Where did you leave that with him? I know, but I had to leave early, so where did you leave it?
That we were gonna write with him.
Okay.
and propose, I guess, 2 dates.
Okay.
Because he wanted 2 sessions for the leadership and the whole team. And then I'm guessing that the content has to also like
Are we providing content?
So we're providing the training.
Oh.
I don't know, like we sort of suggested to, like a more, like internal, like some type of introduction.
Why couldn't a couple of us just do it for them?
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Wait a minute. Well, this is what you do for a living. But, and I develop training for a living, but I develop training based on subject matter expertise, which I'm not.
These are your subject matter expertise.
So, and I usually do it to address a problem that we're trying to change, right? So what?
Got that. We got one of those.
So like, I guess I would want to know. I don't know. I'm curious to know if like we're crossing the line and outside the scope of what we should commit to doing. But I don't know. So what would the training be about for you're talking about the police force now? Because they get a lot of training.
Do you remember what did he kind of ask for? What did he ask you?
No, he basically said that he would love to have some diversity training. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it make sense for you to show him what we've developed? And ask if that would be appropriate.
Yeah. Yes.
Sounds great.
Okay.
And so it shows you it's tapping into a great resource, and it might be good for town employees to be meeting town citizens in this very kind of first go around. I think it'd be powerful.
You're right. Okay. Yeah.
And it's not agreeing to do like months and months, right? It's like a one-time introductory. Yeah.
Well, I'll follow up. We'll get some dates on the calendar for at least when we're going to meet again, and then we can talk about what would be involved, because we'd have to have some sort of this is what we want to get out of it type thing, and then we can put together some other stuff. I mean, I know that it would be more of a discussion, but I mean, if we're going to be asking for members of public safety to spend their time doing this training, and they have all this other mandated training, I want to make sure that it's fulfilling goals of theirs and ours type thing.
Yes.
Okay. So that's, I don't have anything else. I didn't know I don't think there's anything we need to talk about with upcoming parades or things like that. We're not expecting anything different than previous years, right?
Yeah. Well, so that does sound like there's something to talk about whenever you meet. So there's a worth getting together, and it sounds like the three of you will follow up together about.
Yeah, we'll coordinate.
Okay. And if you need help, holler.
I just didn't want to mention.
Hey, Rose.
Hi everyone.
Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Just wanted to follow up really quickly on the status of the incident reporting matter, which we briefly discussed last time, but really there's just the reality of operationalizing an incident reporting system within the town. Even if we were to have a form, for example, like other towns do, where people can report incidents of bias or discrimination and what have you, operationalizing that in terms of who receives that information, whose responsibility will it be to respond, to open an investigation, to particularly on a timely manner, given the nature of these incidents, that was left TBD. And I really think it's important to discuss, identify who would be the anchor for the town to be able to address those matters. Because as we know, there are ongoing realities of what is happening in our town and community, impacting individuals across really the life spectrum. And there isn't a place for individuals to know even where to go. Like, where do they go when they experience this? And where do we guide them to go currently? So I just wanted to circle back and just open up for discussion. And particularly, Mark, you're here, and would love to hear really any thoughts from the town on what, because I'm not getting a sense that anyone is really in a position to anchor and own that process at this time. And therefore it's been kind of like on hold essentially in these discussions. So I just wanted to just raise that.
Thank you, Rose. I'm listening here on Zoom, and that's actually why I'm chiming into these meetings. I had something egregious happen to me in terms of a violation of DEI, and I want to report it and have it addressed finally. So thank you.
Katie, we'll make sure, I don't see you there, we'll make sure that in public comment in just a bit, we'll make sure that you're able to stay in line and we can talk. Is that okay? You're gonna be here for a bit?
Is that me? Are you talking to me?
Yes, Katie, will you be here for a bit so that public comment you can talk to us?
Well, I want to do it privately because it's so egregious that it would make a big stir in town, and I just want to deal with it privately, but I want it dealt with. Yeah.
Okay. We'll make sure to find a way to do that. Look, Rose, just going back to what you said before Mark speaks, just to rehash with everyone where we left incident reporting is there were members of the team that were going to just use that as part of the conversation that are happening with police, public safety. We were supposed to follow up with, if you look at the action plan, we're just to follow up with the Human Rights Council. We were trying to get contact with the Human Rights Council in the early stages to identify what already exists so that as what gets built is built on what we already have, if we have anything. I'm just saying that's for the last time we talked about it together before we go into today's conversation.
And I was going to try, I've been trying to meet with the Human Rights Council, but I have looked at, they really don't have anything in place. So I think we're starting from scratch. And I also, my impression is they're very much volunteer organization. Right. Sure, I'm not sure they have the capabilities or desire to handle. So I think.
So I'll respond in this way. The and this draws on some of my experience as a member of the town senior management team. So the reality is that being a town manager and being on the town senior management team is a big shoulders job. We end up with responsibilities that can run the gamut from natural disasters to personal tragedy to criminal behavior and just about anything else you can imagine. And so it's extremely challenging to design a system for that, other than we empower the town manager, is almost the first part, or the current designee. You may or may not be aware of this, but the town manager, even when the town manager is not here, has always designated somebody to be acting as the town manager who is available. So that's in many ways the first stop on a lot of these. And we have some intake systems that enable, email, people posting things on social media, all of that kind of thing is monitored one way or the other. And then there are services departments like the public safety departments, like the human services functions and the council on aging and otherwise, who logically receive whatever that incident is. And so it's very useful, I think, to think of DEI-oriented incidents as part of a larger incident management framework, which is designed to deal with everything from car accidents to snowstorms to whatever. So the town has a very generalized and flexible and human-centered in the sense that it's the department heads and the town manager who typically put their, get together, regardless of, as the IT director, I would sometimes encounter, some human services need. And so then it was up to me as a senior management team member to try and get that over to the right member of the senior management team and keeping the town manager informed. I think that, so once an incident is detected by some place in that network that I just described, the sort of more nuanced question is, what do you do with it to make sure it doesn't get lost, it gets followed up on, and gets appropriately handled, and that's the piece of the design structure that I think probably needs some work, because you're going to hear things in almost any way, shape, or form. Yeah, hopefully that was fairly clear about it. I know it's not this ring this bell and something will happen answer that we all hope for.
Well, I think there's another question, which is, I'm a member of the community and I have an incident and I really don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And
it's New England. Most people call the police department or show up at the, I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
That tends to be the sort of default, and frankly, police dispatch is very good at engaging. If your power goes out, you call on. If your water's brown, you call on. It sort of doesn't matter, but that's one of the places. I think that most of us are well aware of the concerns in many communities, hopefully not ours, about what happens when you engage law enforcement in certain kinds of incidents, and thankfully we haven't had the same level of those concerns that other places have had, but that doesn't mean that there's not a risk of that.
I propose that we do a subcommittee, maybe with some of us, and then we can invite somebody from the select board and maybe the police and the Human Rights Council, so we can start talking about what this mechanism is going to look like and the different characteristics it should have, so that it meets everybody's expectations, and also make it, not risky for the town.
Yeah.
No, we need to mitigate all the liability, and also be able to communicate it as it is. We want a mechanism for members of the community to be able to use human, very human interaction, focused on very specific things, and that might not be enforceable, and that needs to be very, very clear too. But those exist and they work.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. It's like a community agreement.
And we have in our action plan, I'll just remind us, we have a whole thread around research townwide incident reporting system. And there are very clear tasks on each step. Review best practices from other municipalities, determine the type of incidents to be monitored, everything you just said, draft an incident intake form, work with town to create incident escalation tree, work with the town to create response. It's all there.
That's it.
So we just have to have someone, I think what Rose is recommending, if I'm hearing correctly, someone's going to champion this piece. Josh, I don't think has the time to champion this piece. And we need to have someone else pick this up if we want to see some movement on it, because we've put it in the action plan, but it won't happen unless someone says, I'm going to champion it.
I'm happy to work on it, but I don't know that I should be the only person.
Yeah, and Nancy, I think just really quick, I mean, I don't think it's not just solely a member of the commission or a subcommittee of the commission. We need a division of town government and the town to actually be willing to actually anchor and lead this in collaboration with the DEI Commission, because us as volunteer members of the commission currently, we are doing exploratory conversations. We've done the research. We even have a draft, form, but we cannot operationalize this without the full engagement and collaboration and support of town, divisions.
That's a really good idea, Rose, because Andrea and I meet with the town manager every month. Whatever you just described, if we would have that, we could bring it and someone from our committee to the meeting and say, we want to run through you what we've got so far. And Carrie could talk with us about who on the staff could help us. But we need to bring something to her, because it just, as Mark described, it's as complicated for town staff as it is for us about who's going to do it, who's going to follow up, and who's responsible. But if we've got something, we'll put it on. We have a meeting with her on the 15th.
Well, do we have something that is ready to be?
So the forum it's very similar to the Belmont forum, Nancy, and it's obviously a complete draft, but that doesn't address, so that's one matter, but that still doesn't address the sort of urgent need of, community members, including, Katie, who's here, who's joined our meeting, and other members in community who wish to engage with us in a safe space, without being recorded and, aired on Minuteman TV, who wish to engage and share with us the sort of real realities and experiences that people are experiencing day in and day out in the community. So we can address the incident reporting piece, through this platform that has already been, designed through the mapping and the roadmap and such. However, how are we going to address and carve out space and time that's not going to be aired in this manner, where we could hold safe space for people to communicate with us?
Communicate with us in general, or communicate with us about specific incidents?
So, like, for example, what was just brought up earlier in our session today, we have a member of the community who wishes to share with us something they've experienced, but not here right now.
So what we're going to do, what we need to do is, Katie will give her the offer to talk to Andrea or myself or someone, probably Andrea, at the end of the meeting privately, to see what can be done from our perspective. That's an immediate. But if we want to make a system, we need to work through town government, and we need to come up with a suggestion that we can bring to the conversation. We just need something concrete. We're happy to talk. Carrie's going to be happy to talk to us about it, but we have to have something to offer, I think, at least to discuss.
I think we can put something together and then get feedback from the police and the Human Rights Council and government and the town government. I'm not too familiar with the town government, but I'm sure you are, or you are more familiar than I am. And so we can maybe put something together from Ohio.
Because you're right, Rose, this has to be addressed, but we've got to find a way to get into the path of action.
I think the question is like, from the town manager is going to say, well, I don't have staff. I don't know who is going to have time to do this. And so at least if what we say in the, in the process is we say, we've got a form, we would need, hours for somebody to be able to put the form on there. We need to know where the form is going to go. We need to have we recommend that it's followed up with in, 24 hours. So that we can recommend, because then you can see what the associated workload is. And so then if it becomes embedded in, if the form goes to the town manager and the town manager then routes it to somebody else, she also has to make sure that it comes back to her according to the process, right? Okay, I've assigned it to this person. Now I need to remember to follow up with them with, did you take care of this or something, or some sort of resolution. So we would kind of want to draft that whole process so that she has some sort of person hours that she can associate it with it, and then say, okay, this is what I'm going to be asking my staff who is already, I don't know, this is a bigger picture. Everybody always has more work than they can do. I don't know how to.
What you just described is exactly what's in our plan. We just have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get thwarted when she's going to be like, well, I don't know who I can ask to do this.
I'm more optimistic than that, actually, because
it's
sort of the reality is that it's being done anyway. I think what's different, if I may, is that in the past, some of these things might have become, let's say, Well, some of these things might have fallen into other systems, like there's a whole case management system associated with the Council on Aging and Elder Services.
Okay.
But this doesn't quite fit in that. There's obviously a whole case management system associated with the police department. And, you know, these incidents may or may not fit in with that. So what the discussion about a DEI-oriented system is about trying to track a class of issues, which in the past might have been dealt with, but there wasn't any necessarily tracking or paper trail associated with that. And that leaves us with a lack of understanding of how prevalent they were, how consistently were they handled, and those kinds of questions that are part of the measurements and metrics that we've talked about with Lisa and others. So these incidents are occurring and they are getting dealt with. And I think that when you decide to become an elected official, a commission member, or when you take a job as town staff, you automatically sort of get this responsibility to be part of the sensing mechanism that the community has for doing that. And you know, the training and the information about, okay, what do you do when you encounter one of these things to get it into a controlled processes is really where the work is here.
Yeah.
Especially something that can be tracked over time and we can use for planning programs and proactive activities to sort of adjust what people do.
I think those are the two big things. One, letting the public know where they can, you know, how they can access this, and then two, tracking, you know, over time. So those are the two, I think, big goals from having a distinct process.
You know, I think, I don't know if I'm right on it, this is a good idea, but until we have this process, it seems like if you really, someone said, I don't know where to go, they can always email and start with the DEI Commission. And that's going to come to us and Donna's really good at responding and when people write to that, and we certainly don't have the capacity to solve the issue, but we might be at least able to say, oh, you need to talk to this person, at least get it started. And I know I don't know what you think about that as a short term. If someone asks, who do I go to? You can always email the DEI Commission.
I don't think everyone is comfortable putting their experiences in email, Joe. I think that.
No, I mean, someone, I want to talk to someone, will someone call me? You know what I mean? Right. I'd like someone to talk to me. Yeah. I've had it kind of like what we heard from Katie. I have an incident I'd like to describe to someone I want some help.
I mean, I kind of speak. Yeah, no, it kind of goes back to like, I know we had earlier discussions about holding like community office hours or community presence, so members of the community could engage with members of the commission just to dialogue. And I think that this also reinforces and echoes that need. Because I know it could be ad hoc where someone just says, I need to speak to you, but we also could have a more formal presence and just think more carefully about how where our presence can be, where we can be approached, where we can engage, and create more opportunity for the community to engage with us and share what's have that be a added lens that we help inform our strategic efforts as well.
I've not heard that before. That's interesting. That's very interesting. What do you thought? What do people think about that?
I think communication is going to be key because most people are not following the DEI Commission or any such bodies in the country. So unless if we set something up, we also have to somehow publicize that this is one of the places you can come. But
so from this conversation, are there any next steps? Did anyone hear any next steps on this item?
For sure, let's get together, no? And put like a first draft of that will allow us to start a conversation with both the town to know what resources we might need, and Rose, Nancy, and I, let's get together. Do you agree, Rose? Are you okay with that?
Yes, because I think that basically we need something sort of short term and long term, right? I mean, that's basically what we need to do. And I just want to make sure that we're all collectively thinking on that realm too, that the incident reporting system could be a much longer, multi-month and longer term process to establish. But in the interim, what are we going to do as a commission and as a town?
Because to put it in, keep in mind, it's something that we're going to have a director, who will be involved with this.
They're hopefully will lead us in setting up a long term, but a short term, what could that be? And if you, I don't know when you can meet, but if there's anything, at least so that Andrea feels like she can discuss it with our meeting on the 15th with the town manager, with Carrie, that would be great. If you guys can talk before that, even if it's just on the phone or Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so offline, you guys will meet on that. Okay. Thank you so much. Just keep an eye on time and agenda. Sorry. You guys have done some work related to town manager on preparing a memo that you asked us to look at ahead of time around recommendations for the DEI hire. Did you want to say anything about this? Because then we were going to take a vote on it.
Well, I would say that Andrea put together a great proposal, and I added a few comments, and I think we have something that would work.
Yes, so the memo has a, actually Nancy put it together, and I just formatted, but it has our recommendations of what, you know, the different activities the DEI director can do, and also a range of like the salaries. We looked at salaries around the state, in other towns, even in the private sector, to be able to compare it. And we suggested to, you know, a range of the, oh, you have it there?
Although I hope I have to write it.
Oh, great.
Yes. Hey. We used to get between, oh, it's a big range, between 88,000 and 129,000.
Yeah, and also the role specifications, title and organizational structure, the scope and responsibilities, the strategy and planning, the governance, what his or her responsibilities would be regarding the incident reporting system. There also responsibilities regarding board committees and commissions. I mean, you all have this document, and also community outreach, engagement, and facilitation with other, you know, groups. So that's it.
Yeah, that was awesome. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think it was really helpful that you included kind of reasoning for certain things. So I think it was comprehensive. So it should offer, you know, quite a bit of guidance.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has a question regarding this.
I guess do you anticipate that you deliver this to the town manager, then you and Joe and Andrea will discuss it, or do you anticipate that we might be able to get her to come back and have everybody talk about it together? I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily a reason to have her come to the meetings.
She's been asking us for these recommendations.
Right. Oh, I meant, like, I would be curious to hear her feedback.
From her?
Yeah.
Yeah, if she does have feedback, I guess we can come back and like adapt and adjust the recommendations, and you know, if it's missing something. But I mean, really, Nancy had this and she's had it for a long time. So we only sort of like expanded a little bit and put it in a memo, like format.
Yep.
Which is what she needs. So let's see what she says. And then if she asks for more information, we will try to get it.
We'll make it up.
So do you want us to vote on this?
Oh, yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the memo that you guys worked so hard on, and telegraph it, and send it to the town manager on the behalf of the DEI Commission. And that's the vote we're taking out, that you're supporting that we should send this memo on behalf of the DEI Commission I'm Joe Plumbo, I vote yes.
Kristen Hardy is.
Ms. Brown, yes.
Rose?
Can she hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, thank you.
Did you vote? Is that a yes vote?
We're voting to approve the DEI director recommendations and send them to the town manager on behalf of the DEI commission.
I vote yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Is Rob still on, or did he have?
No, he had kids at school. All right. Well, thank you. So the last piece on the action plan is the climate culture stuff. We've already talked about the signage work. I will just need to keep an eye on that one because I do think there is some concern this morning about this. The Historic District Commission also need to talk about this, so just keep your eye out. I think I'll keep you informed, but it seems like that was an added piece from last night. But one more group look at it. So hopefully that doesn't slow anything down. I think they've ordered the sign covers already. The G and I have been working on the cultural calendar, and G had got too much going on at school today. So just so you know how we started, we had a conversation and we used the thank you to the school district. The school district has a very comprehensive calendar of cultural and religious holidays, and it was very substantive. So we tried to narrow it down for us and tried to identify sort of some significant cultural holidays, and then for significant religious holidays that we could identify. We were in communication with people of various faiths and tried to narrow it down to what we thought was a good number. So the link I sent you in the email is G's best thinking and a little bit of my thinking, like, hey, what should be on what we send out? So I don't know if anyone had a chance to look at that, but if you have any feedback on it, that'd be helpful. If you think we're missing anything, then we have to go back and double check dates. And then what we'll do is create a draft sort of note to go with it, calendar, and then bring it back for the commission to look at before we say yes, we want to send out, and then we'll work with Donna on getting it sent out with the goal of having it in people's hands for the first of the year. So that's kind of our timeline.
You said it'll be sent out to the pool.
Well, our goal was to send it to everyone in town.
Okay.
So like, hey, this is from the DI Commission. We exist, and one of the things we're working on is having us more aware of all the awesome faith holidays and cultural holidays in our town. And we're not perfect, but here's a list that we think you might want to know. And so then they could save, and people will still put things up on a bulletin board with look nice and color to it.
Maybe we should think if there's other communication we would want to put with that.
Yeah.
Or it's an opportunity to tell people about what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know, I'm not too good at this, but I think if you did the 8.5 by 11 fold, right?
You're asking for mailing?
Yeah, mailing. We have one side is the calendar, and on the other side is you have the address, but you have that whole section there where you could do a really nice message for the DI Commission.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in early stages, but right now, if you can at least just check these dates, that'd be really good. If someone, yeah, it was in the email that, hey, come to today's meeting. There's a link, draft cultural calendar. Just look at it and see, because we haven't. I really need someone to check the dates for us, because we think we've checked them, but that can be problematic. So if someone could like check our dates. Thank you, Nancy. Just another pair of eyes. We both think that's helpful. Anything else on other cultural things that we talked about? Naming of a new middle school, and we've had Robin's House and others request to us about helping them under our work on BIPOC to get the message out about Garrison would be a good name for the middle school. I got a very nice call from the chair of the Concord School Committee that they're actually they've done some research, which is super interesting, about how Sanborn and Peabody, the process that they went through for those namings. And using that, they decided sort of their first step as a school committee is to have a conversation as a school committee. Do we want to have a conversation about naming the school? So tonight they're beginning their conversation about, should we entertain this? They won't be voting tonight, but they're talking about it. And then a few meetings I don't know how long you got between meetings, is it every 2 weeks or?
We're meeting next week.
All right, so the next,
Tuesday next.
so tonight's a discussion meeting, and I believe, if I understood what Alexa said, and please correct me if I got it wrong, but next week they would vote on whether to open up the conversation about whether naming or not, and then from that would be a process for naming. The one really cool kind of history nerd thing I found in those old records when they shared it with us is when they were voting for listed names for Peabody, one of the lists of possible names was John Jack, Concord's, one of very famous African-American in Concord history. So even in the 60s, people were thinking about naming school after somebody of color. Just haven't done it yet. So maybe this is the time I'm going to do it.
Can you share the documentation that you received?
Yes. It's kind of fun. It's old.
Yeah, I like that stuff. Yeah.
School board memo from the 1960s. Yeah. And the other thing I don't want to take a lot of time on it today. When you have a chance to look at it, Carmen Gentile's office, I met one of his staffers at a 250 thing, and he said, hey, did you know Sudbury just passed at their town meeting, at a fall town meeting, a letter of support for the state commission that's working on changing the state seal and the state sign? And he said, how come Concord hasn't done that? And I said, well, I don't know. And he showed me, I think there are 80 towns in Massachusetts, including Acton, that have already said, the town is giving our blessing, good luck to the state commissioners working on this. And for some reasons, Concord's never done this. I guess no one's brought it to their attention. So he sent me, and that's what I've sent to you. There's a nice little article about what went on in Sudbury and why they did it, and their article for the their town meeting. And I talked to Carmen, and it's a pretty easy thing to get in if you want to do it. So we could have it added to that's something to think about between now and our next meeting. Read this, think about, and I'll bring it to the question next time. Do we want to put on town meeting warrant this year? A warrant this year for town meeting to have Concord do a sort of like, yes, please, we support you, state commission working on this.
I was there, I snapped to find out.
Yes, I was as well. It's a lot of towns. So I'm going to assume goodwill and assume just no one ever thought to bring it here. So that's our job, yes. Can't wait to see it. It's in the, yeah. Let's think if there's anything else in this agenda. Just a reminder that the tree lighting on the 13th, tree lighting is on the 3rd, and CORE and our other partners are helping us arrange. There will be, just like we did in the Patriots Day Parade, we have a contingency. So if you want, bring your kids or bring yourself and join us and march with us. The DEI Commission will be there at CORE, many of our partners in churches, December 3rd.
Where do we?
I'll send you the information. Yeah, it's very short.
I send that.
Oh, good. It's like, I think you start like Hubbard Street near the post office, you come around the corner, you go through the center. It's really short. It's not like Patriots Day Parade, it's very short. So it's good for kids. And we'll have some like electronic candles or something, we'll make it look cool. And Erin still has the banner from Patriots Day in our garage, so we're good, we've got a banner. So I encourage anyone you want that likes what work we're doing, please tell them. December 3rd, we would meet at 4:45, and it's over by like 5:30. It's great for. Also, the Hanukkah celebration. We want to show a good presence of the Hanukkah celebration. That's West Concord at Rideout, and that's December 13th.
Oh, at Rideout, or at the last year was it like the on Church Street?
I could be wrong.
But I didn't look at it this year, and I might.
I could be wrong. I didn't go to last year, so I could be wrong. But I'll make sure we get the right information. We just save the evening, December 3rd. I think they do it around 4 in the afternoon. December 13th, around 4 in the afternoon. I'll keep putting this in the agenda, so don't worry if you're kind of cool. Keep posting it out because that's the only way I remember things, right? I write them down a few times. Just one other thing about community conversations. Remember last month, Carlos Hoyt, in collaboration with Tricon, and I think the League of Women Voters, maybe others, maybe CORE, I'm not sure. They arranged that evening that you were involved in. Mark was very successful. Carlos reached out to Andrea and myself. We're gonna have a conversation with him later this week just to see what other opportunities there might be to continue these conversations sponsored by the DEI Commission in the town, possibly, because that's not a, you don't just go to that thing once, right? That'd be a thing that was going on and on. And I kind of really got a visual, like, yeah, the bridge, the back page of the bridge, the first top half of the back page of the bridge, bless you, is one of the many forums we're doing in town. This week it's about, should we buy the toxic waste dump? Right? We give a whole half page to that. We don't do it, and it made me think like, oh, I felt so embarrassed. Like we could be doing these community conversations. We could have a whole half page in a community conversation about bias. So this made me like, oh, oh my God, we got to do something. So
you said CORE is working with you on that? Okay.
This first one would just be Andre and I talking to him and see what he's interested in and how much it would cost and all that kind of stuff.
Because Aaron is from CORE is also working with him.
Oh, yes.
Maybe to bring some stuff into at least at the elementary school level.
Yes.
Have conversations. So
I've talked to Aaron about it.
Yeah.
Her and I are on the same page about it, but we know that our work has to be focused on the community.
Okay, that's fine.
But if she works through PTAs, the PTOs.
That's her plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because can you imagine, think of all the sandwich boards that have been out about MBTA, SARMET, transportation plan. One of the, we need to be doing stuff on this topic too. And Carrie will help us. So that's what that is on our agenda. That's all I have other than any other any other comments from the group or any other public comments.
Okay, Leonard with the housing authority. I just want to follow up a little bit what Rose had to say, but first I'll just quickly go through the things I plan to say, which is please send a letter about the Hughes Railroad's House CPC application. There's not enough money for all the applications, so that keep us. So you know, I know you guys really think that's important. And they also have a signage issue out there going on about there's a sculpture on the back of the building. And nobody they want to put up front, but the town and the national park really own all that property, so they're not really cooperating. The other
Can I ask you a question? Are you on the CPC or are you just?
Yeah, I'm the representative for the housing authority on the CPC. Yeah,
maybe you can't answer. Do you feel that there's potential that Robin's house would be cut from the money?
I don't really think so. I mean, I brought the project.
How worried
you wants to see the pictures and stuff like that after we're done. The other thing is, as far as housing is concerned and DEI, there's going to be two 40B projects that would probably add a couple hundred, or at least 400, it appears, units of housing, of which about a quarter would be affordable for middle and lower income. So maybe we can put that on the agenda, because it's not, they're just in the permitting part right now. So if you want somebody to come and talk about the 40B, you know, and how it affects DEI, that's up to you guys to decide. But going back to Rose, this thing, I read that article in the Bridge about the middle school students, and I really, you know, I know the school has done a great job about training people this year. And I just assumed that this is something that happened before, you know, all the emphasis, you know, on understanding and stopping, you know, things that go on in middle school. And most of my friends say, oh, that's just middle school. That happens to everybody in middle school. But we're a little more progressive in thinking that it's just you know, we should turn a dark eye or black our back to it. So, but the other thing is that the school comment was no comment, and I assume that was because it's a lawsuit right now, and they can't really comment. But maybe there should be some coordination between the two DEI groups, the schools and the communities, to, you know, just try to get the word out is that these are kids and the schools are responsible for it, but it's also the parents are responsible, and it's really, you know, their responsibility to make sure their kids are growing up with you know, a little more understanding than this thing, which is just abuse, which to me, you know, abuse that, you know, keeps repeating itself generation after generation, because no one is really addressing it and stopping it where, you know, where it starts. That's hang on.
I'm going to make a public comment to Grace Serrano, Chair of the Regional School Committee.
And I guess I'll just say that anything that's been posted from middle school, there's a lot of student privacy, which is why the school is making no comment on things. So I just want to reiterate that there are privacy issues involved. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is we are talking about the amenities building at CCHS in the regional campus. So I'd love to hear you talk about ADA within the town. This is ADA compliance at the Memorial Stadium. So it's a large number that we're going to put forward the warrant article, but that is why we're doing it, because we're not in compliance right now. We do have, I know it's not that exciting to talk about bathrooms, but I do think that people have to understand that if we want to be a welcoming campus to everyone that attends games, we have grandparents that get down there, we have students in wheelchairs that are down there. We have 3 porta potties. 2 are just regular porta potties. One is an accessible porta potty, which is not always ADA accessible, but not necessarily compliant. So that is really our thoughts behind putting our warrant article forward. So if you care to listen to that, we're talking about that tonight. And in traveling all around to the dual county regions that we were in, we are the only high school that does not have a permanent facility that's ADA compliant. And I think that's all I have.
So just to teach me a little bit, does that mean there's no bathrooms at Memorial Field? What does that mean?
There are 3 porta potties there right now. So we
down the field.
Down at the field.
And
yeah.
there are bathrooms at up the
Out
hill?
of the high school, but to the proximity to the high school is so far away. Sudbury has a similar situation because their proximity is far away, but they do have a permanent structure there. So, and I don't know if anyone has been in a porta potty at night, but it is very challenging. Most of our games are at night that are down there. There's some during the day too, but it might be wide enough for a wheelchair, but that doesn't always mean it's actually accessible.
So if I go to Memorial Field and I'm in a wheelchair, I need to use a porta potty. Otherwise, someone's bringing me up the hill too. So
yes, and you don't even have access to the high school necessarily. Right. You know, if it's on the weekend and it's sports or something that's using our facilities, you don't actually have access.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So are you okay if I move to close the meeting?
Yep.
All right, I move to close today's meeting.
Second.
Thank you. And Kate.